All right. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so appreciative that you're taking the time to learn a little bit more about what a virtual assistant is and how they can benefit your business. So, as you probably know, this is a passion of mine. So, I wanted to jump on here and just share some more knowledge for you and make sure that you are aware of the possibilities that this could provide your business. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started and share my screen here. Okay, here we go. Let me move my screen down here. So I am Rachel Huckfelt. You may know me as Ray Huck, and I've been working virtually now for over 6 years. So I've done everything from being a virtual assistant to an online business manager to director of operations. It really just depends on the client that I was working with and their needs in their industry. So my background is in higher education. I absolutely love education. And I actually have a master's of education in program development. So this is what I do. This is what I love. I'm the wife of Mama too, and I live in Colorado. So I get asked this all the time. What is a virtual assistant? So in the basic terms, like a virtual assistant is any type of remote assistant who provides administrative, creative, or technical support services for online and brick and mortar businesses. So I think one of the misconceptions here is that people think that a VA only works with online entrepreneurs. But really, it's moving towards where VAs are helping everyone. We're working with all sorts of business owners. Now, as I was preparing for this, I found some interesting information just doing the research this year. So the current 2023 work environment preference. So this is what people, this is not preference, I'm sorry. This is what is currently happening is that right now we're 26% remote. We're 34% of us are on premise and 40% are hybrid. So when you look at hybrid, that means like you might work in office like 2 days a week and you're at home 3 days a week. Hybrid is just anything that's not either fully remote or fully on premise. Now we look at the preference, like what do people want to be doing? And here's where we see that people want to be people really want to be remote. So 52% of people want to be fully remote. 42% like that hybrid model, and 6% of people just want to be on premise. Now, what I found very interesting with these stats is that actually like new college graduates have a much higher preference for on-premise. So they want to be in the job, they want to be at the office, they don't want to be home, which I found very fascinating. Excuse me. Okay, so what can a virtual assistant support you with? And as many of you may know, I train and recruit virtual assistants. So I often am working with them to find clients who either need what they provide, or I help clients find VAs that provide certain services. And really this list is like hundreds of items long. And it really depends on what kind of business you have. Like if you're a real estate agent, maybe you're an insurance agent, or you have a medical office, they're all over the place. And, they can support you with customer service emails or helping with your social media, writing, invoicing, calendar management, researching, appointment setting, client success, even like lead gen and list building. And you do have to realize that if a VA gets really good at one of these areas, they are going to become more of a specialist. And so that's a different type of relationship than your general VA. But in the beginning, and very, kind of like high level support in all these areas is available. So there are different types of VAs out there. So we have our US based VAs. And so that's VAs who obviously are based in the US. Then you have international VAs. And so there are VAs from all around the world. And the main thing to think about here is time zone. If the support you need is not based on a specific time, then it doesn't really matter where they come from, right? Or if it's a certain platform that can be accessed anywhere, or like there's different things about your business that you're going to need to consider when looking at the type of virtual assistant you want. And then, like I referred to earlier, There are specialized VAs. So these might be VAs who are experts in certain areas of business. So it might be automation, maybe it's marketing or sales, or funnels, or whatever it is. There are specialized VAs out there who only work on a small area of business. And then payment. This is like one of the top topics I always hear about. There's different payment structures. So it's similar to an employee in this way. Like, you have your hourly option, which is, you pay by the hour. And then you have your retainer. So a retainer is like a salary. It's basically saying your VA is going to work this many hours a week, every single week, and you're going to pay this amount of money every single month. Okay. And then you have packages where it's more like your VA is going to provide XYZ support every month for this amount of money. So they're all very similar, and really your VA is going to guide you through what their payment structure is, and then you can ask them questions and make sure you feel good about it. As far as what you are going to pay a VA, this is really going to be all across the board. Okay, so I mean, entry-level VAs, you can look at like $20 to $25 an hour. And then as they become more specialized, they become more of an expert, you're going to see that price increase. Now, one thing to remember is that an employee wage is extremely different than a VA wage, because a VA is an independent contractor, okay? So they have to pay their own taxes. They don't get benefits. They pay their own rent, equipment fees, internet. They have to take care of all of that, and you don't. And so with an employee, you're providing that, okay? So when you look at an employee wage, let's say it's $20 an hour, that is very different than a VA charging $20 an hour, okay? So if a VA is charging $25 an hour, it's really not that much money, because there's so many things you're not paying for when it comes to that relationship. So when you look at, are you ready to hire a VA? I want you to take the time to do a time analysis. What are you actually doing in your business? And this is something I used to have all my clients do when I first started working with them. Is what they would do is take a spreadsheet, and if you start working at 8 a.m., I want you to document everything that day that you did and how long you did it. I don't care if it was business related or not, because you need to see how you are utilizing your time and how you're wasting your time. If you really did scroll social media for 45 minutes, it needs to be in this list, okay? And then after these, ideally you would do this for 2 weeks. If you only want to do it for one, that is fine. But after the 2 weeks, I'm going to have you look at this list, and then you're going to categorize every item. So you're going to look and say, what did you love doing on this list, and highlight it a certain color? What did you really not like doing, or what do you hate doing? And you're going to highlight that in a different color. And then what on that list should you really be delegating? Highlight that color, okay? And then, so that's going to help you create the list that you are going to be providing to your future VA of things that they can take on for you and take off your plate. But before you go getting a VA and just handing over this random list, what I want you to do is look at everything on there that is either in the color for you don't like doing it, or that you should delegate, okay? And that is your list of the processes that you're first going to create. Now, I don't want you to get overwhelmed thinking, I don't want to go write a bunch of SOPs. Like, you don't have to do that. What you do have to do is use a program like Loom. And as you do each of these tasks, I want you to do a screen record and talk yourself through it. Just talk to yourself. So let's say it's something simple, and you're just having to like check client accounts, but it's tedious, but I want you to film yourself doing it and talk through every single step that you're doing, so that when a VA comes on, they can watch this video, they understand the things that you expect, what you're looking for, all of your steps. And not only does this show them what to do, it's also going to allow them to write the SOP for you. And it's a lot better to have this done before you get a VA, so you're not scrambling when you get a VA, because we don't want to promise someone like, I think I have 10 hours a week for you, and then be like, oh, I still have to figure out what you're doing. Like, that's not cool. So just make sure that you put some of this time in ahead, and so that really we can get the ball rolling when we do hire someone. So some of the benefits of working with a VA, and there's lots of benefits, but these are like 3 top ones, is time freedom. Like I want you to be focusing on what you're best at, what your zone of genius is. You're going to be saving money, like I said, they're not as expensive as employees, and you're going to have more space. You don't have to provide an office space for them. They're providing their own office space. So where can you find a rockstar VA? A lot of people, have this idea that it's scams and they don't know how to trust people. So here's some options that I prefer myself. So there's Upwork. Upwork is a platform where you engage with independent contractors. So you post your job on there, and then these VAs or these independent contractors are going to submit proposals to you. And you can see their profile. You can see they're going to give you the hourly rate that they would like on there. You can see any of their work experience, if they have reviews. The nice thing with Upwork is it does protect you as a client to make sure that work happens if you're paying for it. It protects the payment side of things because you're paying Upwork and they pay your VA. However, please be aware that Upwork is not a good platform for VAs. It's not a good platform for independent contractors because they are taking 20% of the earnings and keeping it themselves. So it is a free platform for you as the client, but it's not a free platform for the VA. But it is somewhere that you can work with and start. Know that your rates on there are going to be higher because they are paying at that 20%. And then LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. It's a great place to network. There's all sorts of independent contractors on there. You can go ahead and post a job. Lots of people are going to apply for it. The downside of LinkedIn is you are going to get a lot of applications, and so you're going to have to filter through a lot. So it does take more time. And then Facebook, depending on your business, you might be in some networking groups. And if you are, there's most likely some VAs in there who have experience in your industry. So go ahead and just post that you need support, and we'll go through the process of that in just a second here. But Facebook is a great place to get referrals and really start networking with people. And then the final option is recruiters. So this is what I do. I recruit VAs for small businesses, and you can just work with a professional who knows how to engage with VAs. They know what to look for. They know what questions to ask you to make sure that our job description is on point and what kind of support we're looking for is the support that we receive. So what does this process look like? So the first thing, this is very similar to hiring an employee. The first thing that we're going to look at is creating that job description. And then we're going to put the application out there. We're going to have an interview. We're going to do a sample exercise. And then we have our final interview. So step 1, that job description. So this is, most people know what a job description is, but it's really going to give clarity on what you're looking for, and what is required in the role. It's easy to share on social media, or use to fill out referral request forms. There's lots of Facebook groups and different companies that send out these jobs to our audience. And so if you submit your job description to us, we will send it out to our community for free. And this is a great time to look back at that time analysis, look at what your results were and what you want to make sure is included in this description. And then we're going to create our application. We really want to be intentional on what we are asking here. Don't just create a generic application. I want you to look at personality fit. I want you to look at your culture in your company. Like, what does someone need to have in order to be a good fit for you? And one thing here in this application is that I always recommend that you ask for a 2 to 3 minute video. So most VAs are used to this. This is very common in our industry, but we provide a 2 to 3 minute video introducing ourselves, a little bit about our experience, maybe our work style, why we want to work with your company, and you really get to know our personality. You can see, how seriously we take it. Did we actually do our hair for this video? Did we look at your website ahead of time? It's stuff like that that's really going to help you know whether this is a good fit. And then here is just an example of what you could post in like a Facebook group. Really just keep it simple, in the beginning. I want you to focus on their personality and like who they are as a person, more so than like their experience with QuickBooks. Okay, maybe QuickBooks, that's a bad example actually, because bookkeeping is a whole other thing. But like, don't like their experience like MailChimp. Like, I don't want you to focus so deeply on one platform that you rule out a bunch of great people, okay? Focus more on like who they are, what type of, person they truly are, and whether that's a good fit for you. And be aware of who you are, because you, as an entrepreneur, you need to be very self-aware for a VA to work well with you. Then you're going to do your initial interview or your discovery call. And I want you to mix both, have a good mix of personal and business questions here. So obviously there's some rules around this, so make sure you are within your own HR guidelines, but get to know the person, see if you're a good fit, and set clear expectations around the position, because the more clear we can be here, the better, because they want to be a good fit for you, but you need to be a good fit for them as well. I think Brene Brown is the one that said, like, clear is kind. So focus on clarity. And then we're going to do our sample exercise. And so this is kind of going to give clarity on what working together would be like. You're going to see firsthand what their skills are, how they communicate, what programs they might be inclined to use. Now, the one thing I want to say here is whatever homework assignment that you give out, please make sure it's not more than like 30 minutes of work, because this person is working for free, okay? And we don't, at this point in the game, you should only have like 2 or 3 people who are doing this work for you, because we don't need a ton of people doing free work for us. Like, it really needs to be a simple project. And it could be something like, a sample of a client who is upset, and how would this potential VA respond to this upset client? Obviously, they're not going to know your policies and procedures. They're not going to know all the things about your business to truly be able to answer this question. But you can see, like, how do they respond to conflict? Do they have empathy, or are they respectful, or do they just kind of brush off the client and say, like, too bad, that's our refund policy, and so an email is a great example of a quick assignment that you can give to a potential VA here. And then another thing to keep in mind is you can always try working together out for like 30 days. Since they are an independent contractor, you could sign them on for a project. You could say, like, think of a project that, would take about 30 days. You hire them just to do that project, to see how it feels, see how it goes. Do you communicate well? Is there a good vibe and culture fit there? Because at the end of the 30 days, you pay them for that project. You always pay them for their work. Please be good about paying people and paying your team. That's huge. But at the end of that project, you can say, let's continue on. Or you're like, thank you so much for your work. This was great, but I don't feel we are the best fit for each other at this time. And then we have our final interview and our offer. So this is a chance to go over the exercise if you have some questions, or they can clarify kind of their thought process. And really, like, if you are solid at this point and you're not doing multiple final interviews, this can also be rolled into an onboarding call. So we do want to make sure that we're successful in working with our VA. So here's some tips I have on that. So you really want to set your baseline for performance. Now, something to consider here is that performance is the same. It doesn't matter the environment. If they're an employee, if they're an independent contractor, if they're in your office, if they're at their home, performance is the same. It doesn't matter where they are. You need to have, the same expectations, but the performance does need to be agreed upon. You guys need to be on the same page. It needs to be clear and it needs to be communicated. So there's different ways to measure performance. You have your typical KPIs. I do recommend with a VA that you are taking weekly measures, and so at least in the beginning, you're looking at this weekly so you can catch things if things are not working. And really what measures you're looking at are going to depend on the work they are doing in your specific business. And then use milestones. Like, if we have a large project that our virtual team is looking at or working on, we need to make sure that there are milestones and there are check-ins. And I want these to be part of your workflow. You need to have these scheduled because we need to be checking in to make sure that our team understands our vision for a project and our expectations. Because just because we said something doesn't mean they heard what we meant to say. Okay, there's cultural barriers, even, state to state. And if we're communicating through text or like email forms, sometimes things get lost. And so we really need to be checking in. Now, going back to the measures beforehand, milestones can be part of that measure, but just because they hit a milestone doesn't mean they're doing quality work. So we really need to be checking in throughout this time together to make sure that the work is meeting our expectations. And then I'm all about communication. Please be communicating your expectations, because if you don't, they don't know. Just because they worked with, a client like you before or a business like yours before doesn't mean they know exactly what your expectations are. So I want you to dedicate yourself to making sure that your team is successful. Like you need to care about that. You need to be passionate about that. And don't use data to micromanage or discipline, or really, like, micromanaging is not a healthy form of leadership. And I've worked with micromanaging clients before, and it's not a good place to be. You don't look forward to work. So please, work on your communication styles and how you do share your expectations with your team. We don't hire people to fire them, and we really want to step in. And if they're struggling, try to see how you can help them reach that goal, because it could be a miscommunication. It could be they don't understand one piece and they're afraid to ask you about it. Or, like, if you don't have that trust on your team, like, you're not going to get very far. And a big tip here is, on a virtual team, and in any team really, but definitely on a remote team, is only have one main form of communication. So I know people are out there using Teams and Slack and Voxer, and then they have like email and text and Messenger. This is a nightmare as a VA. So make sure that you have one form of communication. So that might be Slack. Everything goes into Slack. And that way, when your VA is working on your business and your projects, they know where to go to make sure they're updated on what's happening. They don't have to go try to find 7 different channels or be like, where did they say this? And then trying to figure out where it is. Like, that's not healthy. It's not productive. So have one main form of communication. And if you're really ambitious, I encourage you to have your one main form of communication be your project management platform, and not use something like Slack or Teams. Have everything in Monday, have everything in Asana. Even like, instead of like email, like, if the more you can put everything in one place, the better. Okay. And there's a typo on this page, which drives me insane. But so tools to use with your VA are pretty basic. So you have Canva. A lot of people use Canva. You can use it for your social media content, your workbooks, flyers, all that kind of stuff. It's very user friendly and pretty much anyone can use it. And then you have Asana and Monday. These are the two that I use. There's also like ClickUp and Trello, but you really need to have a project management system in place. And then there's like Google Suite or Microsoft, like OneDrive, a place where all of your documents are stored. We really want to make sure that digitally we are organized and it's clear for people to know where to go to find what. And then Slack or even Teams is, a form of team communication. So again, I encourage you to only have one place for team communication or any business communication to happen. And that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for sticking with me and just hearing more about how you can work with a VA. If you are looking for a VA, feel free to reach out. I have a great community of solid VAs that